Islanda, tărâm de gheață și de foc, situat între Atlanticul de Nord și Oceanul Arctic. Este țara contrastelor, a ghețarilor și a izvoarelor termale, a geizerelor și a celor mai activi vulcani de pe planetă. O țară insulară locuită de urmașii războinicilor vikingi, însă plasată astăzi pe primul loc în indexul global al păcii. Speranța de viață a islandezilor este de 83 de ani, una dintre cele mai ridicate din lume. Și nici nu-i de mirare, capitala Reykjavik se află pe locul 5 în topul celor mai puțin poluate orașe. 2/3 din cei aproape 388.000 de locuitori ai Islandei trăiesc acolo. Pentru islandezi, bunăstarea nu mai e de multă vreme doar o aspirație. Ei ocupă locul 3 în topul celor mai fericite nații din lume, după finlandezi și danezi. Iar asta are de-a face nu doar cu frumusețea naturală a acestor locuri, ci și cu deciziile luate la nivel politic și social. Puțini știu că în Islanda a fost fondat primul parlament al lumii, Alþingi, în anul 930, iar voința populară este aici literă de lege. După criza financiară care a lovit țara în 2008, Islanda a pornit o reformă constituțională și a luat măsuri economice și fiscale ce i-au asigurat redresarea, celebrul miracol economic islandez. Deși nu este membra Uniunii Europene, Islanda are acorduri de colaborare cu Uniunea Europeană în aproape toate domeniile, de la libera circulație până la politicile pentru tineri. Membru fondator al NATO, Islanda nu are însă o armată proprie. Cu toate acestea, este un membru activ și este implicată politic. A condamnat de la început invazia Rusiei în Ucraina și crimele de război comise de regimul de la Moscova în această țară. Democrația este la baza bunăstării, ne-a mărturisit premierul Islandei Katrín Jakobsdóttir, aflată de curând într-o vizită oficială în România.
You know, Iceland is a relatively equal society, even though we always aim to be more equal. But I think part of that is because we are relatively equal, there is a strong societal trust in Iceland. We trust each other, and I think that was also very important. And I always say, you know, politicians around the world, we know that we are often not trusted, but being in a society and being a prime minister in a society where there is such a strong societal trust is a privilege, really.
Premierul Islandei, Katrín Jakobsdóttir, a fost activistă de mediu și a început să facă politică într-un partid ecologist de stânga. Katrín, cum îi place să se prezinte simplu înainte de interviurile cu jurnaliștii, este una dintre cele 8 femei prim-ministru din Europa și una dintre cele mai mari susținătoare ale egalității de gen, platforma ei politică preferată. Este căsătorită și are 3 copii. Absolventa facultății de litere din capitala Reykjavik, premierul Islandei este cunoscută pentru politicile care stimulează accesul la cultură, dar și pentru o carte polițistă publicată în pandemie.
I saw many statements, many of yours talking about happiness, and this is very unique for a prime minister to talk about happiness of people.
It's considered to be soft. I don't think it's soft. I think it should be a priority of every government to think about how we can increase the well-being of everybody and therefore create a society where people actually can seek happiness. You can turn it around and say maybe, you know, that we simply want to reduce misery, but it's really part of the well-being framework that Iceland has been working on with some other countries, with Scotland, New Zealand, Wales, Finland, trying to have this holistic approach on society. We cannot simply think about economic growth, we also must think about how we can ensure well-being of the people and the environment. Culture is really an essential part of the well-being and happiness of every people, I think. And enjoying culture and creating art, being creative and enjoying the creativity of others is such an important part of being human. So I think culture is something that we should value more than we do. And for Icelanders, the language part of culture is very important. We are a very small linguistic zone, you know. So not a lot of people talk Icelandic in this world, and we really want to preserve the language and use it. And therefore we try to encourage people to write and read. I studied Icelandic literature before I became a politician, and during the pandemic, because it was the most difficult project, you know, I've ever been with. You know, I've never dealt with such a difficult problem in my life. I think the pandemic, it was very important to have something else to think about at nights. And then I started writing this book with a friend of mine, a crime novel. So it was let's say that I really managed to keep, you know, my mental health by writing that book during the pandemic.
You are not still a member of European Union, but you are sharing the European values, and we saw this during the war in Ukraine, that you were fighting in your statements. You've been to Chisinau, where with the other leaders, and you were talking about democracy there and European values.
Well, of course, even though Iceland is not part of the EU, we are a European country, and we are very much in close collaboration with the EU through the EEA agreement, and we have remained fully aligned with the EU sanctions after the Russian invasion in Ukraine. And even though Iceland is a country without a military of its own, we have shown a very firm political stand when it comes to this invasion of Russia, which is unacceptable and a terrible thing. And we have used our voice to show our unwavering support for Ukraine, alongside, of course, with financial and humanitarian aid.
Do you think that in the future or after the Vilnius summit, Ukraine needs more military help?
At the Vilnius summit, I think it's important that there will be a very clear message to Ukraine, even though obviously during a conflict Ukraine will not become a member, but I hope that there will be a common understanding of a very clear message to Ukraine from that summit.
Because you've been to Moldova and you know our common values with Moldova. Do you think Moldova has made necessary steps to go to West with this government?
I was in Moldova at the EPC summit, and I think Maia Sandu has shown great leadership as the president of Moldova. And I think they are in the middle of a very important, really, development as a country. But their situation is obviously being so close to the borders and receiving a lot of Ukrainian refugees. They have also been, dealing with a very, demanding challenge. But I was very inspired to visit Moldova, and I think there are a lot of opportunities there.